Hello, everybody. Welcome to session 1 of chapter reproduction. After this chapter, you will be able to define reproduction and state its types. You will be able to describe various types of asexual reproduction that takes place in plants and animals, and you will be able to uh, enlist advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Let's begin with definition of reproduction. So reproduction is the process of producing offsprings that you see here, which are similar with the parents. So reproduction is producing offsprings, and it is done for two reasons. One is to continue their existence of a species, and the next reason is to continue their heredity. And there are two types of reproduction. One is asexual reproduction, and the second is sexual reproduction. Now let's define asexual reproduction. Here the A means without sex. If the reproduction takes place, it is called asexual reproduction. Here asexual means without union of male and female gamete. If the reproduction takes place, it is called asexual reproduction. That is why that reproduction is called asexual reproduction, where there is no union of male and female gamete. And normally it is primitive form of reproduction, and it takes place in less developed organisms, and the offsprings which are produced by this asexual reproduction, they are identical with the parents, because during the reproduction there is no exchange of gene. That's why the parents and offsprings are identical to each other in both ways, genetically as well as physically. Let's learn some characteristics of asexual reproduction. So since there is no union of male and female gametes, so that is why during asexual reproduction only one parent is involved. Here the male and female parents are not necessary. Similarly, as I told you before, during this reproduction there will be no any exchange of gene. That is why the offsprings and parents are genetically and physically identical. And this reproduction is taken place by the involvement of amitosis and mitosis cell division. So what is amitosis and mitosis cell division, you will be learning in higher classes, but now what I can say is, in amitosis cell division there will be simply division of nucleus and cytoplasm without spindle formation or without any kind of karyokinesis. Similarly, mitosis cell division is the cell division in which a mother cell divides into daughter cells without any exchange of gene. So that is why asexual reproduction can produce offsprings which are genetically and physically similar with their parents. And it completes in very short time period. It does not take a long time. Now let's discuss about different types of asexual reproduction. So the first is fission, second is budding, third is fragmentation, fourth is regeneration, fifth is sporulation, and finally vegetative propagation. So one by one we'll be discussing each and every type of asexual reproduction. So let's begin with fission. So fission is a type of asexual reproduction where a parental body divides and form daughter offsprings. The meaning of fission is to break down. So you can see here in the figure, so the parental body is breaking down and forming the daughter offspring, and this kind of reproduction is called asexual reproduction, where there is no any fusion of male and female gamete. So one individual here divides itself into two or more daughter individuals. Like here you can see two daughter individuals are formed, but here one parental body is divided into many daughter individuals. It takes place in unicellular organisms only by the division of nucleus that you can see here, and also cytoplasm. And it is of two types, binary fission and multiple fission. So one by one we'll be discussing. So binary fission means you can see the topic binary. So bi means two. So here the breaking down takes place and form two daughter offspring. So here you can see in the figure the one parental body is divided and finally you got two daughter offsprings. So what is binary fission? The fission where one organism divides into two daughter organisms. And it takes place during favorable conditions like when there is suitable temperature, enough food available. That conditions are called favorable conditions. So during these conditions binary fission takes place, and it is common in amoeba, euglena, paramecium, bacteria, diatoms, etc. Now let's go to multiple fission. So here multiple means many times. So here the parental body will break down many times. So example you can see in the figure. So this is a parental body and you can see the nucleus which is present inside the parental body. It undergoes multiple fission. So you can find many nuclei and later on each nucleus is surrounded by the cytoplasm and becomes individual. So here one parental body is divided into many daughter offspring. Same case happens here. This is chlamydomonas. So one chlamydomonas body is breaking down and forming many chlamydomonas. So multiple fission is that fission where one organism divides into many daughter organisms, and it takes place during unfavorable conditions. And it is common in plasmodium. So this is plasmodium. So one plasmodium body is divided and forming many young plasmodium, and this is chlamydomonas. Now differences in binary fission, one organism divides into two daughter organisms, you can see here, and multiple fission, one organism divides into many daughter organisms, and binary fission it takes place during favorable condition, whereas multiple fission it takes place during unfavorable condition. Now let's go to another type of asexual reproduction, that is budding. So you can see in budding the organism, what does it do is it produces a small outgrowth. Here it is hydra, and here also you can see outgrowth is being produced, and that outgrowth is called bud. So this is bud, and along with outgrowth the nucleus becomes elongated and part of it it protrudes into the bud. After that, whatever the bud is produced, that bud will increase in size and later it will detach from the parental body and it will lead an independent life. So here you can see reproduction has taken place without fusion of male and female gamete. That is why we can say budding is an example of asexual reproduction, and it is common in hydra, this is animal, and yeast, it is plant. So it can occur in yeast as well as hydra. The third type of asexual reproduction is fragmentation. The meaning of fission and fragmentation almost same. Fission is also breaking down and fragmentation is also breaking down. So don't be confused. Fission it takes place only in unicellular organism, whereas fragmentation it takes place in multicellular organism. So either in fission or fragmentation, in both cases the parental body will break down. Like this is Spirogyra. So by any accident or by any effects, if the parental body breaks down, then each piece or each fragment can grow into a new individual. Like this is Markensia plant. So if you just break down any part of the plant and put into the mud, it can grow the new one. So this is fragmentation. So it takes place in multi-organism, as I told you before. And what happens by the various effects, if the parental body divides, then later on each fragment it can grow into an independent life, and it occurs in Spirogyra. This is a kind of algae, and Markensia. This is a kind of bryophytes. Fourth is regeneration. So the meaning of regeneration is regaining the lost part of body. An example here, this is planaria. So if we cut in the middle part of the body, then this part of body has lost the tail and this part of body has lost the head. So each part will regain the lost part. Like example, head region will regain the tail, so it become one individual, and this part of piece has lost head, so it will regain the head. So in this way, from one planaria, you got two daughter planaria. Same case in hydra. So if a body is broken down into two pieces, each piece will regain the lost part of body, and during that process, it will produce two daughter hydra. Staff is also same case. If an arm is cut off, then that arm will regain the whole body. In this way, two daughter starfishes are produced. So means it is helping in reproduction. That's why regeneration is also considered as a kind of asexual reproduction. So how it takes place is by the division of an organism into two or more pieces due to different effects. And what happened later, each piece it will regain the lost part of body and leads independent life. It is common in hydra, starfish, tapeworm, planaria, etc. Now the next is sporulation. It occurs only in plants, and plant is also especially non-flowering plants like mucor, mushroom, bacteria, fern, etc. And they reproduce by producing spores. And they produce spores inside a bag-like structure called sporangium, and within the sporangium, spore is produced. So this is a fern plant. So if you look at the back side of the leaf of fern plant, then you can find black dot structure. Inside it, you will find sporangium. Sporangium is bag-like structure inside which spores are produced. And these spores are produced during the unfavorable conditions. And spores, here you can see they are very small and light, and they are unicellular structure, and they are formed by meiosis cell division. As I told you before, a mitotic and meiosis cell division, this you will be learning in higher classes, but now simply understand these are the process which helps to multiply the number of cells. And these spores are released by bursting of sporangia. So when spores get mature, then the wall of sporangium it breaks down, and then whatever the spores are present inside, they are released outside. And during favorable conditions, these spores germinate and forms the new plant. Now the last type of asexual reproduction that we are going to study is vegetative propagation. So before going to vegetative propagation, we should know what are vegetative parts. So vegetative propagation is also taking place only in plants. So vegetative parts of plant means those part of plants which do not take part in sexual reproduction. Like example, in plant, especially flowers and seed, they take part in sexual reproduction. Except flower and seed, the rest of the body parts of plants are vegetative parts. And if those parts can produce new plant, then we can call it vegetative propagation. So it occurs only in plants, already I told you. So the examples are root, stem and leaves. They are vegetative parts or vegetative organs. So here are some examples. So through roots also we can get new plants, like example sweet potato and onion. These are the example of vegetative, roots which can produce this onion. This root can, if you put the only roots into the mud, then it can produce new plant. Similarly, through stem, potato. This is potato, and potato is a stem. So if you cut into pieces, and if you put each piece into the soil, you can get new plant. Like ginger is also a stem. If you put into the mud, you can get new plant. Similarly, through leaves, like this is the example of bryophyllum leaf, and here the leaf has got bud. So if you put this leaf in mud, it can generate a new plant. So this is how vegetative propagation takes place, helping in asexual reproduction. Now, advantages of asexual reproduction. Like first, let's go to the first advantage. So here, asexual means there is no union of male and female gamete. That's why only single parent is involved. That is why to occur this reproduction, there is no need of any particular environment. In any environment, this reproduction can take place. This is the rapid and cheap method of reproduction because during that asexual reproduction, large number of organisms can be produced in less time. That is why it is also called rapid and cheap method of reproduction, and it helps to produce quality organism. Why we can say that it can produce quality organism? Because during this reproduction there will be no exchange of gene. That is why the offsprings are genetically identical with their parents. So means it helps to conserve the characters. That is why we can say that it can produce quality organisms, and offspring produced by this method get ready for further reproduction fast. Means the plant or the young one which you get by this asexual reproduction, they can reproduce earlier than the offspring produced by the sexual reproduction. Now let's go to disadvantages. Uh, because during asexual reproduction there will be no exchange of gene. So due to which the offsprings are identical with the parents, so there is no diversity. Diversity means there is no differences, all look similar. So due to which if parents got any kind of disease, same kind of disease will be will be transmitted or will be suffering by the offspring. If parents got any kind of negative mutations, then it will continue from generation to generations because there is no exchange of gene and parents and offsprings are identical. That is why if there is any negative mutations with the parents, that will continue from generation to generation. And since there is no new characters developing, that's why if any change takes place in the environment, the offsprings cannot develop the new character. That is why they cannot adapt with the changing environment. So these are the disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Uh, with this, I would like to conclude this section 1 of chapter reproduction. Thank you so much.